So, starting with the first semi-final, G2 versus down 1. It just concluded a few minutes ago, so going over the drafts in the order, starting with game 1, Camille, Lily and Syndra. Nothing all too special here is banned, some power picks and yeah. One Voli Shen, a bit more strange, but these are some weak side top laners that are picked away, banned away from Wander. But you notice Lucian is open, so down 1 maybe testing the waters, seeing like, can Caps actually play the champion? And what's going on with that? So yeah, Lucian being left open, G2 obviously picking it, nothing like surprisingly in that order. Jhin TF, so TF is picked into Lucian to avoid the laning phase a bit more, so he can like TP out of it, but like he's actually very weak against Lucian. Lucian can just E in, hit him, and if TF doesn't have his gold card, he is yeah, a bit of a sitting duck there. Jhin, nothing too spectacular, a very strong ranged champion here, is able to be blinded a bit. Lilia Renekton for Jankos and Wander, comfort picks overall, getting them some early power, and also the AP jungler very good with Lucian and the Renekton, enabling Jankos. Still, it's not how G2 plays, they're not enabling Jankos, it's the other way around. So yeah, a bit more strange here, but anyway. Hecarim then lastly picked the first phase for down 1. Good farming jungler, and he threats these immobile carries. So yeah, Lucian has a dash, Lilia can run quite fast, but in face of Hecarim's E and Ghost, it's still not enough. Cannon Pantheon, like banning some champions for Nuggery and Beryl. Tam Kenji Ashe, banning some safe bot laners. The Ashe pick is a bit strange though, the Ashe ban, because Ashe into Hecarim is like suicidal. So not sure about this one, but yeah, Ashe into Jhin is quite good for Ashe. So like, I mean, it's good for both, but yeah, Ashe has certainly some potential here. GP then elected, scaling into the Croc, and yeah, more global pressure with the TF ult. Silas Rakan, yeah, locking Lucian actually into the bot lane, right, with Silas going mid. Giving Caps a strong and comfortable pick. Silas into TF, like a very known counter pick. But yeah, not sure about Lucian bot lane overall. Like, I mean, he's rather safe, and into Jhin he can stack more mana quite safely. He's not under a lot of pressure. But he would also be very good into the mid lane, because he can create so much pressure like no other champion can. So yeah, Rakan, comfort pick for Mickey X. He's played it multiple times, and this is just first game, so you can just pick whatever you want and then go from there. So the draft is a bit more experimental here on both sides. So yeah, Leona then to counter Rakan, also like getting more frontline here. Hecarim is not your main frontline into the like, first 20 to 25 minutes. But Leona now with the horse, they have some two-man disruption here. G2, like more early game, more mid game. They're looking for skirmishes, as they have no real frontline and not too much engage. They are like more laid back and looking for some like man advantages. They're not really picking, but yeah, looking for some picks here and there through numbers advantage and through roams, because they have pressure in some lanes. Down 1 on the other side has more mid-game power spikes here, but overall they play, or they should play around later stages, because obviously G2 falls off a bit, and down 1 with their globals they become more relevant then, and some champions like Hecarim, yes, they come online with their Trinity, but giving him more items doesn't hurt him, especially because there's no like consistent damage on G2's side. So yeah, that game ended quite in a shellacking from down 1 against G2. G2 held a bit because of their champions obviously being more relevant in the early stages, but yeah, Hecarim and Nuggery's ults were quite good. So yeah, down 1 wins the first game, going into game number 2. Shen, Syndra, Jin, Lucian, Lilia, so Lucian is now banned on the other side. Nothing too surprising here. Graves a standard first pick with Nidalee and yeah, Lilia banned, nothing left elsewhere. Kindred and TF then on the other side, so TF first blind pick with Silas open, a bit strange here. TF with Kindred is a good combination because Kindred can stall out till TF ult channels through. And also the TF gold card is good for Kindred because, well, she doesn't really have much CC on her own. But the thing is, like Yankos Kindred and EU Kindred in general, it's not a pick that was highly prioritized here. And it's probably something they don't have that much training on. So yeah, not that amazing for them personally, but in general it's a good rotation here. Kindred also quite fine into Graves, not in farm speed but in the 1v1. Ashe Silas, so Silas the TF counter, and the Ashe pick, she's not very high priority here I feel, but it's hiding others and it's getting some AD carry just right now, so Ghost has the choice of all the potential picks, gets what he wants, so yeah, nothing too special. I think it's more about hiding others. Because on blue side you don't want to reveal anything and give the red side to counter 2 positions with their counter picks or last picks. Camille then last pick for first rotation for Wonder. Yeah, already talked about that in previous videos. It's a highly comfortable pick for him. He has like so many games on him in the LEC, and yeah, also like a quite decent pick here, quite strong meta pick. Renekton Pantheon, banning strong picks against the down 1 players like Renekton against Camille. It's not that easy for Camille, and especially with Nagari's powers. Pantheon from Beryl, he's the one who played Pantheon support. And Caitlyn Tamkench on the other side, pinching bot lane. Yeah, so nothing too special here. Not sure about the Caitlyn, but the Tamkench, yeah. Against Mickey X, it's understandable. So Leona then for Beryl, for Mickey X picking it away from Beryl. Like Leona, Pantheon and Alistar, like these are his 3 best champions. And also Mickey X is one of the like more engaged heavy players on G2, so giving him some means to enact on his abilities is quite good for G2. Set Leona on the other side, set more brawling, and yeah, it shows that Beryl has adapted a greater champion pool now, with the set from live indicating like a personal growth here. Also set another like more brawling for their team comp. Also quite good against Leona because, well, she goes in, he can just beat her up. He can't really interrupt her Zenith Blade, but with her like he can interrupt with his ult but not with his E. Anyway, like good combination here. Like ulting Kindred out of her ult, and TF also rather immobile. So yeah. Fiora on the other side, like a skill matchup against Camille to a certain extent, but she's stronger in the 1v1, while Camille obviously enables more in the team fights, and with her E has better skirmish abilities in the river, and more even so in the jungle. Last pick we see Ezreal, so it's a super comfortable pick, and also the caster ADC for perks. Additionally, it's also a very safe pick. Not really so with the Leona, but they can't really be dove that easily, so G2 can play more around top lane with their Camille. So yeah, this is something they drafted quite nicely here, drafting to what they actually want to accomplish on the other side. Additionally, like a set can't really get on Ezreal if Ezreal has hands or eyes, so yeah, disabling that champion for the laning phase. G2 again, more power in the early stages, but now they have some like pick potential with key items and key levels being achieved. So they're looking for place top, as I alluded to, and also as bans and picks like the Ezreal and the Renekton indicate. they have no real hard engage, so they could face some issue to contest objectives in the standard way, right? In the like normal face-off, like 5 man versus 5 man looking into each other's eyes. But with like, for example, Camille split pushing, or maybe a Leona flank, they could be able to go through these different routes. Down one, more scaling, similarly, have more late game initiation. Also, Fiora, as I mentioned, the strongest build pusher, and with Silas stealing some of the key ults of G2, he can actually do what they want to do, but certainly better. As like he does more damage with his ult and is more mobile than, for example, the Leona. Additionally, like Graves farming faster, Set like enabling so much disruption in the team fight. So yeah, overall, that one has to lay back a bit, but they certainly have abilities to fight back if G2 overextends and overforces their early leads. In the game, I have to mention this, so if you're running just into the fights one by one and giving up four drakes in a row, it's not that shocking that you're going to lose. So yeah, that was like a more small brain game from the down one. It felt like they were like very confident after the first game and just hand shook every fight G2 initiated. As such, they fell quite far behind. I mean, they could have outplayed some of them and then snowballed harder because of the draft. But yeah, that's not really how you should play. Like, you should play to your strengths and not try to outplay the enemy's strengths. So yeah, not that giga brain from them here. So yeah, it's now 1-for-1 going into game 3. So Camille, Nidalee, Lucian, Ornn, Silas. So yeah, again, weak side top laners, and the Silas also banned here. Lucian on blue side, a bit sad, but yeah, it didn't work out that well for G2. Jhin then elected, so more power for G2's bot lane now, instead of like the fear of always being pressured there. Also, Jhin enabled so much in the draft phase with his long range follow up. He can turn some Leona engage into some real strong engage, because just Leona running in is quite easily to be outplayed and kited upon. But with Jhin's lows coming in from his ult, or another route into the Leona combo, can actually make the difference in many cases. Graves Syndra, like the standard bread and butter combination, I already talked so much about in like nearly all videos on this channel. It's just so strong at the moment, offering early game and mid game power. And yeah, the CC combination of Syndra E and Graves W is quite good. The burst as well. Nothing really to write home about this in a negative way. Kindred Akali, it's a bit strange because Akali wants to one-shot, Kindred does like want to mitigate one-shot potential. So like there can be situations where they are working against each other, but if their coordination is quite good, so you could Kindred ult before, like make the enemy slow, and then if Kindred ult dissipates, Akali could one-shot the low health targets up the Kindred ult. But yeah, it's like it forces a bit more communication here. Also, they have no setup for each other, so both have a slow, but there's no stun or anything here. So yeah, a bit strange. Also, like Yenko's Kindred wasn't that great. Akali, yeah, she's quite a good pick at the moment, but yeah, there's a reason why we haven't seen much of her, because she needs so much setup and so much vision to play as aggressive as she wants to. Ashe, so yeah, picked into Jhin before the second ban phase to not get pinched too hard here, and yeah, a known strong pick. Yeah, nothing all too special here. Renekton Set versus Nuguri and Beryl. Also, Set could go into top lane if G2 elects a tank, but Tahm bans against Mickey X, so yeah. Also, like, even if Mickey X wasn't the enemy, they have very immobile carries, so banning these champions is quite quite good here. Lulu then elected for down 1 the top support flex they are semi-famous for at this Worlds tournament at the moment. So yeah, wait to see where this goes. Pantheon Sion, so strong semi-global ults here and some frontlining. Quite strong picks here for the mid game. And lastly, Leona, great follow-up or engage for the rest of the team. Yeah, also the potential to roam into mid and to help the Grave Syndra 3v3 or 2v3. And individually it's quite decent into Pantheon. It's not great, but it's quite good. Also this looks Lulu into the top lane, obviously. So Lulu into Sion, yeah, she's going to bully him quite decently, but she has no kill threat, so yeah. G2 with Akali Pantheon and like I alluded to, partially Sion. It's a more mid and early focused draft. Sion becomes more situational into the later stages because he can't just run into, and his ult can be blocked by other champions or terrain, so it's not reliable engage for the team unless you're like in mid lane or in the river. Pantheon, yeah, he falls off as well. Also, as I alluded to, the engage overall is very linear, which is helpful in open fields. And yeah, down 1 has little counters to it, right? They have no great front line on their own, but if they like position behind walls or against behind towers, they like very diminish Sion's engage potential. Yes, so down 1 they want to play more back-sided with their ranged champions and kite these teamfights out a bit. They don't want Sion to be in their face, similarly with Akali. So like scaling with Lulu, Graves, Ashe, also with Syndra to a certain extent. They have so much late game damage and survivability with Lulu getting some items and lifesteal. Actually though, they have some lane pressure in top and the mid lane, the Syndra against Akali. Though Akali can do something at level 6, before that she's pushed under the turret quite heavily and is chunked if the Syndra player has the SKT skin. So yeah, the Lulu is very integral though to down 1, so she can't really split push or can't play a 1-3-1 or 1-4-1 or whatever, because she needs to be with her team to shield and support, because her W can be quite helpful against the Akali, and her shields diminish the burst of a champion like Pantheon, for example. So yeah, this game 3, it's a bit more back and forth here, but in the end, it's still down 1 favored in most cases. The Lulu really shutting down picks like Akali, and even before that, Akali as caps was quite handled by Syndra Showmaker. And yeah, another game of Canyon also completely out jungling Jankos. Jankos continuing with more gank heavy style and falling behind in farm every game. Yeah. Additionally, like, we don't have to talk about top lane. Like, this game, Wander just accepted that he's like worse than Nuguri and goes for something like the tank Sion instead of going for another round of Camille and getting like shafted this way. Even though he won the Camille game, right? Like, he was like being nearly solo killed multiple times. So yeah, overall down 1 snowboards the game quite decently through the 5 vs 5. As I mentioned before, if they're able to 5v5 with Lulu, they're so much stronger than a 4 vs 4 situation. So yeah, getting the 2-1 lead here and going to game 4 with the match point. So yeah, we see the Shenban again, Syndra and Jhin. Nothing too outstanding, it's just champions that were relevant this series. Lucian Lily Ashe, so yeah, focusing the power picks on the red side as expected, with Jhin and Ashe no banned. Other AD carries like Caitlyn, Ezreal and Senna could rise up to priority here. But in contrast we see TF first, with Sylas open, So we could assume maybe they have a strategy in mind, probably revolving around Kindred. But yeah, it's a bit risky to just pick TF with Silas open, especially because Caps is already so trained in this matchup. So we obviously see Silas then in the next rotation, and then Graves, so taking it away from Canyon, and also Graves TF. It's also a very good combination. It's not Kindred TF, but it's also very good because Graves farms faster, and through this maybe Yankos with a champion that farms faster in his own against Kindred. Maybe he hopes that he doesn't fall that far behind here. Kindred and Caitlyn on the other side, we see more ADCs, right? So maybe like G2 should probably elect a tank here after that. But Kindred TF, as I mentioned, a very nice combination. Caitlyn, a very lane dominant champion, something that we don't see very often because you're not playing around bot lane most of the time. So yeah, down one needs some like good laning support to enable Caitlyn's powers, because otherwise, yeah, she will need like a lot of time and is not as helpful as like a Senna would be, or an Ezreal with his safety or his 2-item power spike. So yeah, down one needs some pressure in bot, or at least some good matchups there. On the other side we see the Ornn pick, obviously, as I alluded to, against 2 AD carries and against the like, rather low damage TF, a tank is very good here. The safe top laner, again as a tank, like the Scion, to like diminish Nugget's domination and this impact. Tahm-Kench Pantheon bans against Mickey again, disabling his playmaking potential. Like Tahm-Kench was banned every game in the second rotation, so I feel like G2 maybe could have picked it in the first rotation, because it's actually a very powerful pick for them. I mean, they could have at least tried it once, but yeah, anyway. Camille Lulu taking Nugget off some comfort picks, which could go very well into the Ornn. Then we see the Senna to like hide the support pick, which is quite good because it's quite clear that Senna is being picked here. Nothing much would make that much sense, honestly. Silas Graves Ornn. With Ezreal you would lack some damage here. Senna, although she doesn't enable that damage right off the get-go, in a few minutes time, like 30 minutes, she does actually deal the damage G2 needs, and with Ornn picked, also Graves likes to scale as well, so it's rather obvious that they want to scale, so yeah, Senna highlighting that more, although they lose more early power here. Also Senna against Caitlyn it's actually not all that great, so yeah, it's a bit strange, but with Jhin Ashe banned, most great champions into Caitlyn are already taken off the table. So Set Braum on the other side, so very great picks here. They are great into nearly everything picked. On the other side, offer great disruption, and yeah, Braum against Silas, it's just very hurtful. Also Braum into Ornn, we don't have to talk about how he just disables his ultimate. So lastly we see Nautilus for Mickey X, giving him more early power and more initiation potential to complement his aggressive playstyle. So yeah, maybe they think Senna Nautilus is good against Caitlyn Braum, which it isn't, so not sure about this one. Yes, there isn't much left open here, but yeah, it's just they're surrendering bot lane nearly already. But yeah, overall G2 was pushed back in this draft quite a bit, just answering what Down1 already picked, and I feel like Down1 just gets better picks and likes their champions way more than what G2 elects here. So G2, like, they can get some 3v3 leads, in the mid lane, because Sylas is such a good skirmisher. But without that, they have like very little to do in the entire game till the hard late game where Ornn and Senna are online. Because yes, Sylas could match TF, but if Sylas like follows TF into a lane, he will go to a lane where G2 is already behind. So it will be a losing 2v2 or losing 3v3. So yeah, Sylas can't just blindly do that. So Graves against Kindred, yeah, Graves farms faster, but Kindred has set up in her lanes, while Graves has losing lanes. Caitlyn into Senna, very strong for Caitlyn. She can just bully her if the Braum is able to position correctly against the Nautilus. Also, Braum hard outscales Nautilus. Yes, they're not very the same champion, so Nautilus has more pick potential than Braum. But yeah, Braum countering nearly everything of G2. Similarly, the set into Ornn, a very good matchup for the set. Able to split push quite handily. And yeah, with more disruption here against G2's champions, it's just very strong what Down1 was able to draft here. As I mentioned, a lane kingdom in every role, great skirmishing abilities with the TF, able to generate picks in their strong lanes, right? It's not like a standard game where like Sylas could follow, but he follows to losing lanes. In the late game it's hard for them to go through G2's front line because, right, the TF doesn't offer that much damage in that department. Similarly, as the set is more or less a tank that does some damage, and Caitlyn needs items to do that, so if she falls behind or is not online for these moments where the tanks are coming in, G2 could win some fights, but that's not very likely unless there are some outplays in the lanes, which is also not likely looking at the player levels and also games 1, 2, 3. So yeah, actually this is one of the greatest shellackings in Worlds history. Yeah, it's the fastest game in Worlds, nearly a perfect game for most of it, and Down1 is able to finish it before 20 minutes. Yeah, it was very dominating. The TF able to solo kill the Sylas. Kindred lives in Graves' jungle. Top lane is being doved quite decently with TF ult. Caitlyn completely demolishes bot lane because G2 overvalues the Rift Herald, rotates all members in there. Yes, they get Herald, but Caitlyn gets all plates, the turret, waves. So either G2 was like very desperate, or like they weren't really paying attention to the leads Down1 were generating, or they maybe just didn't have any answers, right? So G2 is not that strong in individual levels, even though they have some pop-up plates here and there. They're not bad, but their greatest strength is their creativity and their team play, and they didn't even come to it because Down1 was smashing them so hard in the laning phase that if G2 wanted to group or try to group, Down1 in a like even members disadvantage could win or like even out these skirmishes because they were so far ahead from the early minutes. And then, as I said before, like even a 4v3 or something like that, other members from Down1 were generating massive CS leads or objectives leads in the other lanes. So yeah, that's it for this series. It's the first time an EU team is not in the finals for the last 3 years, and also the first LCK final appearance since 2017. And more interesting, with Suning and TS, so a LPL team is guaranteed for the final. It's the first LPL LCK final since 2014, with I think Starhorn Royal Club against what was it? Samsung White. So G2 are now out. No more are they the LCK Slayers in connotations. But still, semi is a great result for nearly every team on the planet, and I feel like they can just try again with the same roster. Not sure like if there's even an upgrade possible for them. Maybe in the ADC position, Perks didn't look very good. But yeah, maybe the meta changes again and he can just roleplay some safe picks like Kai'Sa and Xayah and just chill or whatever. We don't know what will happen with the item changes. On the other side of the rift, down one continuation of their dominance. Just one slip up in game 2, but then smashing G2 around like a doll, showing the new ways of the LCK, which was demonstrated in spring by T1, and then later at Worlds even through Dragon X. Not so much through Genji's outdated maneuvers, which was quite shockingly. If you look at the LCK, they played more faster games than what they showed at Worlds. I would assume it was due to stress that they fell back to old moves, but yeah. So now down one going into the finals, and without seeing the TES Suning series obviously, as it is due to tomorrow, they seem like the clear favorites, and yeah, overall they show great individual and team powers, with a few teams to match them, if any. So yeah, that's now it for today. Tomorrow we will see the last series before the finals. It will be very exciting to see if any of these two teams can dominate just as much as down one, so we can get some more spicy final. But I would assume the series tomorrow will be quite close, because Suning improved very much and TS is not looking all that great. And because of that, I have little hopes for the LPL teams, and I think down one will smash either team as 3-0 in the finals. But well, let's see what happens. So yeah, bye, have a great day and stay safe.